Devaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtrapaya Shravadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from chapter 21 of the 10th canto, the gopis glorify the song of Krishna's flute. This chapter describes how Lord Sri Krishna entering the enchanting forest of Vrindavan upon the arrival of autumn, and the praises the young cowherd girls sang when they heard the vibration of his flute. As Lord Krishna, Lord Balram, and their cowherd friends entered the forest to graze the cows, Krishna began playing his flute. The gopis heard the enchanting flute song and understood that Krishna was entering the forest. Then they narrated to each other the Lord's various activities. The gopis declared, "To see Lord Krishna playing his flute while taking the cows to pasture is the highest perfection for the eyes. What pious activities has the flute performed that enabled him to freely drink the nectar of Sri Krishna's lips? A blessing we cowherd girls find difficult to achieve. Hearing the song of Krishna's flute, the peacocks dance, and all the other creatures becoming stunned when they see them. Demi-goddesses traveling through the sky, the airplanes are vexed by Cupid, and their garments become loose. The ears of the cows stand on end as they drink the nectar of this flute song, and their calves simply stand stunned. The milk they have been drinking from the mother's udders still in their mouths. The birds take shelter of the branches of the trees and close their eyes. Listen to the song of Krishna's flute with rapt attention. The flowing rivers become perturbed by conjugal attraction for Krishna, and stopping their flow, embrace Krishna's lotus feet with the arms of their waves. While the clouds serve as parasols to shade Krishna's head from the hot sun, the Aborigine women of the Shabara race, seeing the grass stained by the red kumkum, adorned the Lord's lotus feet, smearing the vermilion powder upon their breasts and faces to alleviate the distress created by Cupid. Govardhan Hill offers grass and various kinds of fruits and bulbous roots in worship of Lord Sri Krishna. All the non-moving living beings take on the characteristics of moving creatures, and the moving living beings become stationary. These things are all very wonderful. Rishika Vacha Itam Sharat Svacha Jalam Padmakara Sugandhina Nyavishad Vayuna Vatam Saga Gopalako Chita. Shukadeva Goswami said, "Thus the Vrindavan forest is filled with transparent autumnal flowers and cooled by breezes perfumed by the fragrance of lotus flowers growing in the clear lakes." The infallible Lord, accompanied by his cows and cowherd boyfriends, entered that Vrindavan forest. Kusmita Vanaraji Shishmi Bringa Dhija Kulavushta Sarasharin Mahindram Madhupati Ravaghai Yacharan Gha Saha Pashupala Balas Chuku Chavenum. The lakes, rivers, and hills of Vrindavan resounded with the sounds of mad bees and flocks of birds moving about the flowering trees. In the company of the cowherd boys and Balram, Madhupati, Sri Krishna entered the forest, and while herding the cows, he began to vibrate his flute. As suggested by the word Chukuja Venum, Lord Krishna skillfully blended the sound of his flute with the lovely sounds of Vrindavan multicolored birds. Thus, an irresistible heavenly vibration was created. Tadvrajastriya ashritya venam gita smarodayam paschit paroksham krishnasya swasakibhyo navarnayan. When the young ladies in the cowherd village of Braj heard the song of Krishna's flute, which aroused the influence of Cupid, some of them privately began describing Krishna's qualities to their intimate friends. Tadvarnayitum arabdha smaratya Krishna chestitam nashakan smara vegena vikshipta manaso nripa. The cowherd girls began to speak about Krishna, but when they remembered his activities, O king, the power of Cupid disturbed their minds, and thus they could not speak. Barhapidam natavarabapu karnayokar nikaram vibrad vashakanakavapisham vaijayantim chamalam रन्ध्रान्वेणुरधरसुधया पूरयन् गोपवृन्दैर् वृन्दारण्यं स्वपदरमणं प्राविशद्गीतकीर्ति. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnika flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips. The cowherd voice sang his glories. The gopis remembered all the transcendental qualities of Krishna mentioned in this verse. Krishna's artful way of dressing and the beautiful blue flowers placed over his ears excited the gopis' romantic desires as he poured the nectar of his lips into his flute. They simply lost themselves in ecstatic love for him. Iti venumravam rajan sarvabhuta manoharam shukla vrajastriya sarva varnayanto bhile bhile. O king, when the young ladies in Raja heard the sound of Krishna's flute, which captivates the minds of all living beings, they all embraced one another and began describing it. The word iti indicates that after becoming speechless and remembering Krishna, the cowherd damsels then regained their composure and were thus able to ecstatically describe the sound of Krishna's flute. As a few gopis began to exclaim, and the other gopis realized that they shared the same ecstatic love within their hearts, all of them started embracing one another, overwhelmed with conjugal love for young Krishna. Shri Gopya Uchahu Akshavantam Phalamidam Na Param Vidama Sakya Pashun Anuvishayator Payasyai Vaktram Vajesha Sutayor Anavenu Drishnam Yervani Pitam Anurakta Kataksha Moksham. The cowherd girl said, "O friends, those eyes that see the beautiful faces, the sons of Maharshi Nanda, are certainly fortunate. As these two sons enter the forest surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision." This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 4155. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur has commented as follows: The gopis meant to say, "O friends, if you simply remain in the shackles of family life in this material world, what will you ever get to see? The Creator has granted us these eyes, so let us see the most wonderful thing there is to see, Krishna." The gopis were aware that their mothers or the elder persons might hear their romantic words and disapprove, and thus they said, "Akshavan Vatam Phalam," to see Krishna as the goal of all persons, and not simply ourselves. In other words, the gopis indicated that since Krishna is the supreme object of love for everyone, why couldn't they also love him in spiritual ecstasy? According to the Acharyas, the different gopis spoke this in each of the following verses through text 19. Chuta Pravala Barhastabak Potpalabja Malanuprikta Paridhana Vichitra Vesau Madhye Virejatur Alam Pashupala Goshthyam Range Yatham Natavaro Pacha Gayamano. Dressed in a charming variety of garments upon which their garlands rest, and decorating themselves with peacock feathers, lotuses, lilies, new-grown mango sprouts, and clusters of flower buds, Krishna and Balaram shine forth magnificently among the assembly of cowherd boys. They look just like the best of dancers appearing on a dramatic stage, and sometimes they sing. The gopis continued singing the ecstatic song as they remembered the pastimes of Lord Krishna. The gopis wanted to go to the forest where Krishna was performing his pastimes, and while remaining concealed, peer through the leaves of the creepers and see the wonder of Krishna and Balaram dancing and singing with their boyfriends. This was their desire. But because they could not go, they sang their song in ecstatic love. Gopya kim acharad ayam kushalosma venur damodaradhara sudam api gopikanam umte swayam yad avasishta rasam hridinyo Hishyat vacho shrumumuchustaravo yatharya. My dear gopis, what auspicious activities must the flute have performed to enjoy the nectar of Krishna's lips independently and leave only a taste for us gopis, for whom that nectar is actually meant. The forefathers of the flute, the bamboo trees, shed tears of pleasure. His mother, the river on whose the bank the bamboo was born, feels jubilation, and therefore her blossoming lotus flowers are standing like hair on her body. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 16:140. In the guise of the releasing flowing sap, the bamboo trees are actually crying tears of ecstasy upon seeing the child become an exalted devotee flute of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Sanatana Goswami gives an alternate explanation. The trees are crying because they are unhappy and not being able to play with Krishna themselves. One may object that the trees in Vrindavan should not lament for that which is impossible for them to obtain, just as the beggar certainly doesn't lament because he is forbidden to meet the king. But the trees are actually just like intelligent persons who suffer when they cannot obtain the goal of life. Thus the trees are crying because they cannot get the nectar of Krishna's lips. Vrindavanam sakhi bhuvo vitanoti kirtin yadevaki sutapadambuja labda lakshmi govinda venu manumata mayura nrityam Prekshyadra Sanvavaratanya Samasta Sattvam. O friend, Vrindavan is spreading the glories of the earth, having obtained the treasure of the lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Devaki. The peacocks dance madly when they hear Govinda's flute, and when other creatures see them from the hilltops, they all become stunned. Sri Sridhar Swami explains that because activities such as those described in this verse do not occur in any other world, the earth is unique. In fact, the earth's glories are being spread by wonderful Vrindavan, because it is the place of Krishna's pastimes. The name Devaki also refers to Mother Yashoda, as stated in the Brihad Vishnu Purana. Dve namni nanda bharyaya Yashoda Devaki ticha ata sakyam abhutasya Devakya Shauri Jayaya. The wife of Nanda had two names, Yashoda and also Devaki. Therefore, it was natural that she, the wife of Nanda, developed friendship with Devaki, the wife of Shauri Vasudev. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains Krishna Leela as follows. In Vrindavan, the peacocks request Krishna, Govinda, please make us dance. As Krishna plays his flute, and they surround him in circle and dance in time with the rhythm of his melody. And while standing in the midst of their dancing, he also sings and dances. And those peacocks who are fully satisfied with his musical performance out of gratitude offer his pleasure their own divine feathers. In the usual manner of musical performance, Krishna gladly accepts these presentations and places a feather upon the turban atop his head. Gentle animals such as deer and doves greatly relish the transcendental entertainment presented by Krishna, and to get a good view of the flock to the peaks of the hills. Then they watch the breathtaking program, they become stunned in ecstasy. Sri Sanatana Goswami comments that because in Vrindavan Krishna goes barefoot and can thus directly mark the earth with the symbols of his lotus feet, that transcendental land is even more glorious than Vaikuntha, where Vishnu wears slippers. Tanyasma mudha gatayopi harinya eta yananda nandanam apakta vichitra vesham akarnya venum ranitam saha krishna sara pujam vidurvicharitam pranayavaloke. Blessed are all the foolish deer because they have approached Maharaj Nanda's son, who is gorgeously dressed and is playing on his flute. Indeed, both the doe and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita. According to the Acharyas, the gopis were thinking as follows. The female deer can approach Krishna along with their husbands because Krishna is the ultimate object of affection for the male deer. Because of their affection for Krishna, they are encouraged by seeing their wives attracted to him. Thus consider their household lives fortunate. Indeed, they become joyful upon seeing how their wives are searching after Krishna and following along. They urge their wives to go to the Lord. On the other hand, our husbands are jealous of Krishna, and because of their lack of devotion to him, they cannot even stand to smell his fragrance. Therefore, what is the use of our lives? Krishnam niriksha rupanitotsava rupa shilam shrutva chatat panita venu vivikta gitam devyo vimanagataya smara nunna sara Brashyat par prashuna kabara mumuhurvinipa. Krishna's beauty and character create a festival for all women. Indeed, the demigods' wives flying in their airplanes with their husbands catch sight of him and hear his resonant flute song. Their hearts are shaken by Cupid, and they become so bewildered that the flowers fall out of their hair and their belts loosen. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments, this verse indicates that the transcendental sound of this flute of Krishna extended to all corners of the universe. Also, it is significant that the gopis knew about the different kinds of airplanes flying in the sky. In fact, even while sitting on the laps of the other demigods' husbands, the demigoddesses become agitated by hearing the sounds of Krishna's flute. Thus the gopis thought that they themselves should not be all blamed for their ecstatic conjugal attraction for Krishna, who after all was a cowherd boy from their own village, and thus natural object of their love. If even demigoddesses became mad after Krishna, how could poor earthly cowherd girls from Krishna's own village avoid having their hearts completely conquered by his loving glances and the sounds of his flute? The gopis also considered that the demigods, although noting their wives' attraction to Krishna, did not become envious. The demigods are actually very refined in culture and intelligence, and therefore, when flying in their airplanes, they regularly take their wives along to see Krishna. The gopis thought our husbands, on the other hand, are envious. Therefore, even the inferior gear are better off than we. And the demigoddesses are also very fortunate, whereas we poor human beings in an intermediate position are most unfortunate. Kavascha Krishna Mukha Nirgata Venu Gita Piyusham Utabhita Karna Puta Vibantya Shavasnutastanapaya Kavalasmatastu Govindamatmani Drishashru Kalas Prishantya. Using their upraised ears and as vessels, the cows are drinking the nectar of the flute song flowing out of Krishna's mouth. The calves, their mouths full of milk from their mother's moist nipples, stand still as they take Govinda within themselves through their tear-filled eyes and embrace him within their hearts. Rayo Vatamba Vihatga Munayo Vanesmin Krishne Kshitam Tad Uditam Kalavenu Gitam Aruya Yedruma Bhujan Ruchira Pravalan Trinvanti Nilita Risho Vikratanya Vacha. O mother, in this forest all the birds have risen onto the beautiful branches of the trees to see Krishna. With closed eyes they are simply listening in silence to the sweet vibrations of his flute, and they are not attracted by any other sound. Surely these birds are on the same level as great sages. The birds resemble sages because they live in the forest, keep their eyes closed, observe silence, and remain motionless. Significantly, it is stated here that even great sages become maddened by the sound of Krishna's flute, which is completely spiritual vibration. The words Ruchira Pravalan indicates that even the branches of the trees are transformed in ecstasy when struck by the vibration of Krishna's flute song. Indra, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu become primordial gods even throughout the universe and have extensive knowledge of the science of music. And yet even these great personalities have never heard or composed music like that which emanates from Krishna's flute. Indeed, the birds are so moved by the blissful sound that in their ecstasy they close their eyes and cling to the branches to avoid falling off the trees. Sri Vishnu Shakri Thakur explains that the gopis would sometimes address each other as Amba, mother. Nadyastadata upadharya mukunda gitam avarta lakshita manobhava bhagna vega alingana sthagitam urmi bhujair murare grinanti padayugalam kamalopahara. When the rivers hear the flute song of Krishna, their minds begin to desire him, and thus the flow of their currents is broken and their waters are agitated, moving around in whirlpools. Then with the arms of their waves, the rivers embrace Murari's lotus feet and holding on to them present offerings of lotus flowers. Even such sacred bodies of water as the Yamuna and the Manasa Ganga are enchanted by the flute song, and thus they are disturbed by conjugal attraction for young Krishna. The gopis are implying that since many different types of living beings are overwhelmed by conjugal love for Krishna, why should the gopis be criticized for their intense desire to serve Krishna in conjugal relationship? दृष्ट्वा तपे व्रजपशून् सह रामगोपै सञ्चार्य तं यन्तम् अनुवेणुमुदीरयन्तं प्रेमा प्रवृद्ध उदित कुसुमावलीभिः संख्युव्यधात् स्ववपुषां भूत आतपत्रम्. In the company of Balaram and the cowherd boys, Lord Krishna is continually vibrating his flute as he herds all animals of Raja. Even under the full heat of the summer sun, seeing this, the cloud in the sky has expanding himself out of love. He is rising high and constructing out of his own body, with its multitude of flower-like droplets of water, an umbrella for the sake of his friend. Srila Prabhupada states in his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the scorching heat of the autumn sunshine was sometimes intolerable. Therefore the clouds in the sky appeared in sympathy above Krishna and Balaram and their boyfriends while they engaged in blowing their flutes. The clouds served as soothing umbrella over their head just to make friendship with Krishna. Purna Pulindya Urugaya Padabja Raga Shri Kumena Daitastana Manditena Tadarshana Smara Rujastrana Rushitena Nimpantyanana Kucheshu Jahusta Dadhim. The Aborigine women of Vrindavan area become disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with reddish kumkum powder and dyed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet. This powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds, and when the Aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they give up all their anxiety. Srila Prabhupada explains this verse as follows: the wanton Aborigine girls became fully satisfied when they smeared their faces and breasts with the dust of Vrindavan, which was reddish from the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. The Aborigine girls had very full breasts and they were also very lusty, but when their lovers felt their breasts, they were not very satisfied. When they came out into the midst of the forest, they saw that while Krishna was walking, some of the leaves and creepers of Vrindavan turned reddish from the kumkum powder that fell from the lotus feet. The lotus feet were held by the gopis on their breasts, which were also smeared with kumkum powder. But when Krishna traveled in Vrindavan forest with Balaram and his boyfriends, the reddish powder fell on the ground of Vrindavan forest. So the lusty Aborigine girls, while looking toward Krishna playing his flute, saw the reddish kumkum on the ground and immediately took it and smeared it over their faces and breasts. This way they became fully satisfied, although they were not satisfied when their lovers touched their breasts. All material lusty desires can be immediately satisfied if one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness. Antaya madrir abala haridasa varyo yad Rama Krishna charanas parashra pramoda manam tanoti sahago ganayostayor yat pani yasuya vasa kandhara kandha mulai. Of all the devotees, this Govardhan hill is the best. Oh my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends with all kinds of necessities: water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, vegetables. This way, the hill offers respect to the Lord, being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. Govardhan hill appears very jubilant. And this translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitamrita Madhya 1834. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the opulence of Govardhan Hill as follows. Pani refers to the fragrant cool water from the Govardhan waterfalls, which Krishna and Balaram drink and use to wash their feet and mouth. Govardhan also offers other beverages such as honey, mango juice, and pilu juice. Suryavasa indicates Durva grass, used to make religious offerings of arghya. Govardhan also has grass that is fragrant, soft, and conducive to the strong growth of cows and increased production of milk. Thus, this grass is used for feeding the transcendental herds. Kandhara refers to the caves where Krishna, Balaram, and their friends play, sit, and lie down. These caves give pleasure when the weather is too hot or too cold, and when it is raining. Govardhan also offers soft roots for eating, jewels for ornamenting the body, flat places for sitting, lamps and mirrors in the form of smooth stones, glistening water, and other natural substances. Gopakair anuvanam nayatur udara Venusvane kalapades tanu bhrishtu sakhya Aspandanam gatimatam pulakastarunam Niryogapashakrita lakshana yor vichitram. My dear friends, as Krishna and Balaram passed through the forest with their cowherd friends leading their cows, they carried ropes to bind the cows' rear legs at the time of milking. When Lord Krishna plays on the sweet music causes the moving living entities to become stunned, and the non-moving trees to tremble with ecstasy. These things are certainly very wonderful. Krishna and Balaram would sometimes wear their cow-herding ropes on their heads, sometimes carry them on their shoulders, and thus they were beautifully decorated with all the equipment of cowherd boys. Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that the ropes of Krishna and Balaram are made of yellow cloth and have clusters of pearls at both ends. Sometimes they wear these ropes around their turbans, and the ropes thus become wonderful decorations. Evam vidha bhagavato cha vrindavana varnayanto nito gopya kridastanmayatam yayu. Thus narrating to one another the playful pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he wandered about the Vrindavan forest, the gopis became fully absorbed in thoughts of him. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada comments, this is a perfect example of Krishna consciousness. To somehow or other remain always engrossed in thoughts of Krishna. The vivid example is always present in the behavior of the gopis. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya declared that no one can worship the Supreme Lord by any method that is better than the method of the gopis. The gopis were not born in very high Brahmana or Kshatriya families. They were born in the families of Vaishyas, not in the big mercantile communities, but in the families of cowherd men, not very well educated, although they heard all sorts of knowledge from the Brahmanas, the authorities of the Vedic knowledge. The gopis' only purpose was to remain always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. This ends the purpose of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 21st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Gopis Glorified, the Song of Krishna's Flute. Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.